Hey guys, welcome back to another Vanguard video. Today we're talking about the Toshiki Kai Start Deck releasing on May 22nd in English. We actually have the full reveal of the card list right here, as well as the reveal of all the cards and their full effects. As you can see, the reprint is actually a one-of Forbidoll Surrogate, which is pretty big because a lot of premium decks in English also use it, as well as a Colgaflan and as well as Dragvita, as well as a common print. Pretty awesome to get good reprints, at least for Forbidoll. I think Forbidoll is really good. Colgaflan, not so much, but you know, I kind of wasn't really expecting to print like Falheart or something in this start deck anyway, so I'll still take it. But before we do get to the full card reveals, I first want to talk about the fighter icon. So as you can see, we have the Toshiki Kai fighter icon, and this is pretty much referenced for abilities. They also have the clan icon for Conroe in the bottom right, as you can see. So any cards that you would reference a specific clan or Vanguard belonging to only one clan work, such as Bellicosity. But you do have to remember that because these cards have the same name as some other cards that exist, you can't play both of them. So for example, you can't play 4 of this Overlord and then 4 of the original Overlord from BTO5. But most of the time, you aren't going to be playing the old ones because you're going to play the new ones with their new effects with the Kai Fighter icon. So now for the rideline, and I was quite excited when I read this. It's really good. So first off, we have Lizard Soldier Conroe with the auto when rode upon if you went second to draw a card. Next up, we have Embodiment of Armor Bahr with the auto when placed on Vanguard Circle. You cost reveal grade 3 with Kai icon from your right deck, aka the new Overlord. You choose a Lizard Soldier Conroe from your soul with a Kai icon called to Rearguard Circle, and it gains the following red text until the end of fight. So act on Rearguard Circle, cost retire this unit. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 card, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle the deck. So I love that it keeps the red text until the end of fight. It's basically, we got Forerunners back in Standard, which is super exciting, definitely very nostalgic. It's also amazing because being able to search any grade 1 out of deck is really strong. For example, you can search Elementaria Sanctitude, which is a free PG against Stride deck sets or any Vanguards that have triple drive. You can search for a normal PG, or you can search for Scarlet Phlegm, which will basically double your Persona Ride on turn 4. You know, your Persona Ride on top of Overlord, and then you'll also use Scarlet Phlegm to double that Persona Ride. Also get that draw 1, you know, has the drop ability, and it's also really nice just to cycle, draw 1, retire, and give something +5 if you didn't. So just a really strong ability for Scarlet Phlegm overall. Then the second ability is auto and back row center Rearguard Circle. When your Vanguard with a Kai icon stands by a card ability, you may stand this unit. If you did at the end of that turn, you put this unit into your soul. So you basically get a restanding booster behind Vanguard every swing, and of course this isn't once per turn, so this goes off multiple times, which is very strong if you flip Dragvita or, you know, use Vanguard skill to restand itself. Now the next card is Dragonite Nahalem, and this card is so good. So auto when placed on Vanguard Circle, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You choose up to 1 unit card with a Kai icon without Sentinel, which is basically most of, if not all of your deck. You reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If this unit was placed from hand, this unit gets +5k power until end of turn. It's a very interesting kind of like break from hand effect. So not exactly like Cross Ride, but we'll kind of see that pattern with the other Kai icons for grade 3s, but really cool that they do have on place from hand effects if you didn't ride from the ride deck. Then the auto and drop is super strong. When your grade 3 greater Vanguard with a Kai icon is placed, you perform one of the following, and there's 2 abilities you can choose from, and this is not once per turn either, or checks if you've activated it already. So the first one is if you have no rearguards with the same name as this card, you may call this card to Rearguard Circle from drop. If you called, both your Vanguard and this unit gets +5k until end of turn. So yeah, maple effect, but every time you're Persona Riding a Senshi, you just get this back. And actually, it doesn't even have to be Persona Ride, because if we'll look at later, with Vortex Dragon, if you do that, you'll still get this drop effect too, to basically call it back as a maple and give 5/5 to Van. Then the second ability is cost bind this card. Choose one of your Vanguard's auto abilities and reduce the next counterblast you pay for that ability's cost by 1 until end of turn. So you're definitely playing a lot of this guy. You'll also be playing him in a ride line. So after you ride up and Soul Blast him out, you'll have him active. But he's really good pitch fodder, really good for getting that +5 early if you did ride from hand. And of course, having this in ride deck, you know, you ride up, free check top 7 for basically any of your other pieces, or for Persona Ride, you know, for follow up or any, you know, boosting rears, whatever you need from the top 5, which is just so strong. So yeah, this card is really good. Being able to reduce your CB means you have CB to use for other effects. If you did want to play Rutaro or any other cards, you know, that do search out your Persona Rides or to, you know, help you countercharge. But yeah, for the most part, it really is just saving you that 1 CB, because all the Vanguard spoilers are using CB1, so basically makes their effects essentially free, or at least a portion of their abilities. Alright, now for the new Dragonic Overlord with the Toshiki Kai icon. So continuous normal writing this card from a grade 3 with a Kai icon that has a different name as this card is also considered to be a Persona Ride. So if you ride this on top of Vortex Dragon, which we'll take a look at next, you actually do get a Persona Ride off, which is really strong because of course you're going to be playing Overlord in the ride deck, but if you do Persona Ride from Dragonic Overlord into Vortex Dragon, you get that Persona Ride off, then you can go back into Overlord once your opponent's at higher damage if you really wanted to do that, because you are going to likely be playing a lot of grade 3s because they both have the Kai Fighter icon. You can add them from top 5, so it kind of just gives you a lot more Persona Rides to work with, and kind of brings back Break Ride in a way, but not really, kind of like a standard version of that in Overdress, which is very interesting. Then you have the secondary skill, which is Auto Vanguard Circle. Once per turn, at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, you cost Counterblast 1, stand this unit, gets drive -1 until end of turn, not restricted to, any grades. So 3 drives going first, very strong. If you Persona Road this turn, then cost you put a card from hand into your soul, so you don't actually discard, so Halb kind of doesn't really work for this Overlord until end of turn. This unit gets drive +1 and all your front row units get +5k. So obviously this portion of the skill is locked to Persona Ride, but you're basically playing like Dote, you're doing twin into twin, and the +5k power to front row is kind of an upgrade. With Scarlet Flame, you'll basically be getting 20k to front row, then with this that's 5, that's not including Draco Resonance or any other crazy power. So the power will spiral pretty fast for 4 attack decks if you want to play like that. But spoilers, we do have Vortex Dragon, which will basically enable this deck to do 5 attacks, especially when your opponent's at high damage is really strong. Then the third skill is Auto Rearguard Circle. Once per turn, at the end of the battle that this unit attacked a rearguard, if your Vanguard has a Kai icon, you cost Energy Blast 3 and stand this unit. So the reason he has Auto Rearguard Circle skills because Vortex also has one as well. So Forbidoll can call both of them and you can have 2 attacking rears that have good abilities. This is basically just to swing it to an intercept, get rid of it, restand itself, and then you swing it again and then restand it off like Vortex or something else. So yeah, as a rear or Vanguard Circle, Dragonic Overlord is very strong. Of course, you could also be playing this in like pure Dote as well, but most of the time, you are just, if you're playing pure Dote, then you're probably just using Scarlet Flame to double that Persona Ride. But I think overall, this is just a really strong upgrade to Overlord and definitely one of the best cards out of the start deck. Just very simple, basically budget Dote, but also having a Rearguard Circle skill as well is very helpful in some situations. So the next card to talk about is Vortex Dragon. It also has the continuous. When normal riding this card on a grade 3 with a Kai icon that has a different name as this card, it's also considered to be Persona Ride. So you can Persona Ride on top of itself or on top of Dragonic Overlord. The act on Vanguard Circle, once per turn, you cost Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 grade 3 with a Kai icon. So usually you want to go into this, on turn 4. You retire all of your opponent's front row units so it gets a round of resist. And this unit gets the following red text, Auto Vanguard Circle once per turn. When this unit attacks, you choose a column, stand all of your rear guards in that column, and they get +5k until end of turn. So essentially +10k to that column, which is super, super strong. Then if you Persona Road this turn, you choose 2 columns instead of 1 until end of turn. So very similar to Elf Knights in that way, except you don't have the extra drive. And of course, thankfully, the Auto Vanguard Circle red text is once per turn, so if you do flip Drake Vita, you don't get it off again, but still very, very, very strong. You basically get to do 5 attacks, and it also gets additional power very easily from the third skill. So the continuous on Vanguard Circle, Rearguard Circle during your turn, if your Vanguard has a Kai icon and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 greater, and either your Vanguard attacked 2 times this turn, or your opponent's Rearguard was retired this turn, so basically from his own ability, this unit gets +10k power. So basically, no matter what, either you're on Vortex or on Dote, it'll be getting that +10 pretty easily, as long as your opponent's on grade 3, but you're assuming they rode up, of course. Then the last skill is Continuous Guardian Circle. If you have Vanguard with a Kai icon, this unit gets shield +10. So it's not a 0 shield in hand, it's a 10k shield. And yeah, Vortex Dragon just looks very strong. It's basically like budget Elf Knights, but I think overall when you look at how cohesive this start deck is, as well as the other Kai icon cards, it's just a very, very strong cohesive Vanguard. Because of course, going first, you're going to do 3 drives. On this, you are only doing twin drive on Persona Ride, but you're restanding 2 columns and pumping them up by +10. And that's not even considering, Persona Ride numbers, how big those rears are themselves. And a lot of the rears in this deck do just make very easy magic numbers, such as hitting 28 and whatnot. So you'll be hitting very good numbers. And, worst case scenario, if this guy's in your hand, you can guard with him because he's 10k shield and hopefully just, find another Kai icon thing to Persona Ride, such as OG Overlord or maybe another Vortex Dragon. So yeah, I think this guy is really, really strong. Really, really, really impressed with the kind of break cross ride design that we have for standard instead, but for Persona Ride, of course, that has kind of been integrated here in the TD. And it's very simple to understand, very easy to play out, and a lot of really good retire. That front row retire is really big. We saw when Bab had front row retire being super strong. We also have Beserk Dragon in here, which we're going to take a look at next, that can retire any rear as well. So lots of easy retire control and a lot of aggression that is very, very easy to play in this deck. So definitely the Overlord start deck is looking very, very, very strong. So the next card is Beserk Dragon. So auto, when this unit rides from hand, this ability does not have a cost. So if you ride it from hand instead of using the ride deck, you can get basically a free ability here, which is kind of crazy. Just very interesting. He isn't necessarily meant to be played as the ride deck, because I think Nahalem just works a lot better because you can Soul Blast him out, and that top 7 is really strong. But anyways, let's look at the rest of the skill. So when placed on Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, if your Vanguard has a Kai icon, you either Counterblast 1 or Soul Blast 2. So, being able to use either your Soul or CB, of course, is very strong. Having those 2 options for paying cost. You perform one of the following. If your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets +5k until end of turn. So basically getting that free +5 and then +5 from the second continuous. But anyways, you get to draw a card or choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So very, very simple, very, very strong. Being able to Soul Blast instead of Counter Blast, again, having that optional cost is very strong. And, being able to draw a card early, of course, is always, always good. So, yeah, just a very, very strong rear you're definitely going to be playing for. And he also powers himself up even further with the continuous rearguard circle skill. So, during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with a Kai icon, this unit gets plus 5k power. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 10 instead of plus 5. So, in total, with the first auto, you're going to be hitting 15k on your own. That's not considering Persona Ride or any other boosters. So I really like that this is basically tied to the start deck because it's a super strong card, but no other really generic decks can steal it because of the Kai icon. It's not encounter locked, which I'm really, really hopeful for and thankful that they have balance. So really, really good card design here, and I think this card is super strong. You're definitely going to be playing Forfeit for sure. So next up, we have Wyvern Strike Tejas, which originally attacked the back row, if you remember. Funnily enough, you can't actually attack the back row center, and this is noted by Kyrus. But anyways, so continuous rearguard circle, guardian circle. If your Vanguard has a Kai icon, it gets plus 5k power and plus 5k shield. So early 10k shield, which is really nice, and also 15k attacker. And when this unit would attack a rearguard, it attacks all of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as that unit. So when you attack, a rear on side on the left or right, you'll also snipe their booster as well, which is really, really annoying. And because you can restand that column again, you could technically do this twice. But for the most part, this is just to snipe pesky boosters on your opponent's board before, you restand with Vortex Dragon or something else, or if you wanted to get rid of a really big, intercept, because a lot of back row intercepts exist right now, such as like Block Horse, and Ava also has Regalia as well. So I think being able to attack a column actually is pretty relevant right now, at least in this meta, I would say. It's not super common, but it can come up. Just really, really funny that he can't attack back row center specifically, but very strong regardless. Maybe if you're playing the mirror and your opponent messes up and, doesn't call Conroe behind Vanguard, then I guess this could come up and you could snipe it. But yeah, very, very funny indeed. So the next card is Wyvern Strike Jarran. This is the booster for Tejas. So auto when placed on rearguard circle, you cost counter blast 1. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 unit card with a Kai icon without Sentinel from among them, so you just can't add PG obviously. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you did not reveal, countercharge 1. So basically CB1 check top 5 for any of your pieces out of deck, which is amazing. Of course, adding Beserk off this is very strong. Any of your grade 3s for follow-up, Vortex Dragon, Overlord, just a very, very good card in general. Then auto rearguard circle when this unit boosts Wyvern Strike Tejas. Specifically, it gets plus 5k power until the end of battle. So it's a 13k booster with Tejas' 15 power, making an easy magic number of 28k. The last card to talk about is Dragon Monk Gojo, and this card is really good. It's actually generic. So auto when discarded from hand during your ride phase, you perform one of the following. You call this card to rearguard circle as rest, or you can cost Soul Blast 1 to call to rearguard circle as stand. Then the secondary auto is when placed on rearguard circle, you may draw a card. If you did, you choose a card from your hand and discard it. So yeah, easy ride phase ditch fodder, and if you do call them at any time, and because the you may draw is optional, you can easily cycle through your deck. You don't have to activate the ability. It's just a very strong card, and when you combine this with the Dino Triple Rare we just got in DZBT12, you have so much easy ways to just pitch and rebuild a board for absolutely free, essentially. Like the Dino card is actually free. This, you have the Soul Blast 1 if you want to call it a stand. But going first, it's really easy to pitch this, call it as rest. Then on the next turn, it'll stand, and you can just rush down your opponent. And of course, having that pitch 1, draw 1 is very, very nice. It could also be relevant in some decks, such as like Bav, if you do want to activate, certain cards, such as Ars Farina. But yeah, overall, this card is just super generic, very good. I can definitely see a lot of other Dino decks or whatever, like stealing this off. Like free, basically cycle while also getting a body on board is really strong. And being able to basically discard this and have another card to tri-lane with when you go first is also very good as well. So overall, just the start deck looks very, very good. I can't really say there's a single bad card in here, honestly. So I do want to give a little bit of a PSA because I think this bio is already happening for Diorruing, but for the most part, because we have Baron as the PG, it's very likely we will get Assault as the Royal Paladin PG. So for Alfred and, all the other Royal Paladin specific clan encounters, or, when we get the Aichi Sendo TD, this will be very relevant because you can just grab the specific name PG from drop back to hand. Diorruing is just a very, very strong card. Previously, you could really only do this for Shadow Paladin, but it is very likely we will get Assault, and you will be able to do this and add Royal Paladin PG from drop back to hand, because obviously it checks for that specific clan of your Vanguard. Alright, so first off, now to talk about some of the cards that I think the start deck will be needing for upgrades. I'll obviously make an updated guide on this once the official TD comes out in English, but I kind of just want to theory craft at first. Nothing really uses energy in this deck. In fact, the only card that does use energy is the Rearguard Circle of Dragonic Overlord, which you are likely not using. So I think Bellicosity is just the easiest thing to throw into this deck. Draw 2, gets plus 5k every time Overlord swings, just very, very strong. I think Ballheart is a very easy inclusion as well. EB3 to draw 1 when ditching for the ride deck, or if you guard with it from hand. I think the Ace unit is also very easy to throw in here as well. Just more removal on top of Beserk, and you get that EB3 draw 1. 15k in the early game is also very strong, and it can also just be a 25 5k attacker if you went second. So I think really just a lot of energy blast outlets are going to be very good to throw into this deck. I also want to talk about Lizard Soldier Yenjin, because while Brawlers is basically going to hog up this card and basically made it get bought out, it can basically get you with an extra soul because it checks for Cody Blaze Vanguard, or if you have a Vanguard with only one clan, which you do fulfill the condition here to basically get a great 2 or less from soul, basically you getting you more soul on top of your Bahr as well as your Overlord restand cost. The Overlord restand cost won't really go off until Persona Ride on turn 4, but still having a card that such as Yunjin that gets you that early soul and draw 1 is still very nice. Likely won't be played, but it is an option. Another card to mention is Drag Resonance. It is plus 10k to your front row on restand, but for the first initial swing, it's still pretty small. I'm assuming you have the plus 5 from, Nahalem, so you'll be 18 plus the Bahr for it, so 26, which is still a pretty decent number. But for the most part, having that plus 10 is kind of greedy and win harder when you could be making space for other Kai Fighter cards or more energy blast outlets. But I think Direct Resonance is still something people are going to play just because it is very much a win harder card. For the 1-up cards, I think D-Roar is kind of just very obvious. It's just a broken card and you kind of have to play one. It's very easy to get because it's been reprinted as well. And I think Galnet is also a decent option as a 1-up in this deck as well, because while you are probably reusing that Nahalem or binding it, you can still Soul Blast and Conroe kills itself anyway, so it's very easy to get Galnet off for that easy draw 1 or 20k shield. I do want to mention Blaze Maiden Elba because I really love this combo when Overlord played it back in the day. I don't think Overlord is going to be playing this, but you can CB1 and rest 3 rearguards with Blaze Maiden, and this can also include triggers as well to draw 1 and choose from your Vanguards and give it the red text. All your front row units get plus 10k power. So while this won't really happen because a lot of times your back row will be filled by Gojo, this was a really cool combo back in the day to basically give that plus 10k initially to Overlord and your rears to hit for some really good numbers when you went first or second. So I kind of have to give the obligatory shout out to Latifah because it is a very strong card with Scarlet Phlegm on turn 2 just to build a board. You likely are playing Scarlet Phlegm anyways, and you can search it off the Conroe effect, that you do give with Bahr. But I think for the most part, Latifah isn't really necessary because you have so many good Kai icon cards that you could be playing instead. But Latifah is kind of just an option I want to mention, very easy early game and does, playing a normal order does activate Shemri as well if you are playing that whole cohesive package. I do want to mention the obligatory Acute Dragon Arafas because this card is really strong with Gojo. You just get so many free grade 1s on your board, and this is really easy early game aggro. On attack or boost, you Soul Blast 1, and it gets plus 5k power until end of battle for each of your other grade 1 or less rearguards. So if you high roll 2 Gojos in this guy, he's getting plus 15k, which is actually crazy. And if you high roll more, you really just beat down your opponent into a position where they really can't guard, especially once you make a full board of Gojos and this. So it is kind of high rolly and kind of a meme, but it is something I do want to mention because Overlord did play this at some point, and a lot of red decks did just play this just to overwhelm and rush down your opponent. Another card I do want to mention is Battle Monk of Waterscale's Ruto as kind of the counter charge, really, besides Ethan and, Gallant Flare Dragon. But I do think it's kind of less common just because you already have so many easy check tops for your Kai icon cards. But this card could easily search your Persona Ride for CB1 because you are discounting Van's cost with Nahalem if you found it and pitched it early. And, just having more on hit pressure is really nice. It's just that this card is kind of bought out for Brawlers right now. But I could see a world where you do play this in the start deck. Or if it does become very popular, for consistency's sake, it could be an option. But, you have so many other ways to basically Persona Ride in this deck between Vortex, Dragon, and Overlord. I don't think it's too much of an issue. Last card to mention is Dragooder Nermin. I don't think you're really going to be playing this because you have enough check top for Kai icon cards specifically, but Nermin is also a 13k booster when you retire, and you have a lot of easy retire between Beserk as well as Vortex Dragon as well. So just another generic I wanted to bring up, but likely not going to be played, but did want to mention it anyways. I think the Persona Shield Cycler could be interesting because you do want more Soul Blast outlet, and it might be a little bit more consistent than Colgaflan, especially just because it is, getting that 15 solo attacker if your opponent's grade 3 greater. Also getting more shield in the early game is always good. So I think it might be a solid option, but I do feel like other energy blast outlets are just easier to slot in, such as Felheart and the Ace unit. And last but not least, you have your effect draws, effect fronts, and I don't really think you're going to be playing any other OT besides Drake Vita, honestly. But yeah, that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about for the Dragonic Overlord Start Deck. I think it's looking very, very cohesive, very good, very simple, and I think it's just an amazing product for new or returning players, and even veterans as well if you just want another Forbidoll. And there is also going to be a chance to get SPs. We don't know about God decks. I would still wait until we get the official release in JP. For those who don't know, the God decks were basically where you had the entire deck be foiled and blinged out, and those went for like hundreds of dollars in like both formats. But yeah, SPs are going to be randomly inserted. We don't exactly know what the rates are. I don't believe they said in the live stream Do let me know if I did miss that. But yeah, SPs for Overlord 15th SP anniversary, they look so good. We have Overlord as well as the entire ride line, and I'm assuming there will be, but we still don't know if we will get chances to get the entire deck foiled. Likely is the case because we did have that for the last start decks for Shiki as well as Zero, but you know, we'll see in the future once it actually comes out. Next Thursday, we're getting the full reveals of Zorga Fantome as well as 14 new cards, including the ride line and its support. So hopefully going to be seeing a lot of triple rares, likely going to see another cycler like Colgaflan for the deck just to search those Phantom Moons, but I am really excited. I was really worried we were going to have to wait another week for Zorga, but we are basically getting both the users. We're going to get Beserk on Tuesday and then Zorga on Thursday, and then hopefully the Aichi start deck right after that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another Vanguard video.